Alright, hello everyone. This is going to be my first video tutorial. So today we're going to be showing how to do resin casting. So basically creating solid parts such as greeblies. So it's going to be a little while before I can do a mold making tutorial, but there's plenty of them out there. David made a few that you can find the link to on our two-story props page. So we're going to actually start off making a couple castings of BB-8 parts. So here we have the radar eye, the hollow projector, the PSI indicator housing, and the two-part mold for BB-8's antenna. These are all rebound molds. The orange pinkish ones are rebound 25. Just basically made a block mold, so simply poured it in. Because it's very flexible, so it can get around all the detail pieces. And then we have this particular mold is rebound 40. It's a bit stiffer rubber. It's what I had on hand at that time when I needed the mold, but it gets the job done. And this is going to be a two-piece mold for the antenna, so we can actually get the antenna out. So first thing we're going to do is apply a thin layer of talcum powder to the mold. This creates a capillary action that helps pull the resin into all the crevices, so we don't have any air bubbles we have to fill in the final casting. So basically I'm going to take your standard off-the-shelf Wally World baby powder. If you can find a source where it doesn't have the smell, all power to you. So I'm just going to put some in there, shake it up a bit, and because this is a two-part mold, I'm actually going to put them together temporarily, give it a shake, and then over my garbage can here, just kind of tap the mold so that we have a very fine layer of talcum dust in there. You don't want too much, you just want a light coating. And then in this case we have two pieces of MDF that we're going to put on either side, and that holds the mold rigid so the antennas are going to come out straight. Alright, so rubber band here and rubber band here. You want the mold to be tight enough that's not going to leak, but if you crush it too much, you'll deform the shape. So snug's good. Alright, so we're going to put that there. I've already pre-talced the rest of these molds. So next thing we're going to do is prep our resin. So for most work you'll ever do with solid cast and greeblies, I would recommend Smooth Cast 300. It's a two-part urethane resin. It cures in about 10 minutes, and you mix equal parts, so you don't need a scale. The trial unit here is about, I believe, $25, and a gallon of the stuff is about $85. But we're not going to be using a whole much for what we're doing here. So other things you want your nitrile gloves to keep it off your skin. Mixing sticks, particularly with the shorter cups. If you're mixing with a very tall cup, you might need to use the plastic spoons. And I like these shorter cups for the small amount of resin we'll be mixing today, because you can use the line as a measuring point. So this is pretty straightforward. First off, I'm going to just take the part B, and I'm going to pour to the first line. Based on previous experience, that should cover what you see here. I might have a little bit of extra, I might not, which in that case I'll just fill as many molds as possible, because right now I'm mostly worried about making a new antenna. For those of you who don't know, BB-8, I do carry around several antennas just because if they will snap if the head falls off or if it gets caught on something, so I like to be prepared. Most of the rest of the droid is pretty durable, particularly compared to R2-D2 and the Dalek. Alright, so now I've poured out my part A. so both of these cups are now at the first line, which means I have equal amount. In theory, I could just pour one into the other one, but then you're going to have to compensate for the residue. So I'm actually going to pour them into a larger mixing cup, and the next steps are going to go very quickly because the pot life here is very short. It's about 10 minutes. Plus, thicker areas cure faster, so we want to get it out of the cup as soon as possible. So I'm going to try to talk through this, but if you hear a pause, I'm focusing. Alright, so I'm going to pour in my part A. And I'm going to set this aside right here so I can use it later. And I'm going to pour in my part B. Alright, so now I take my mixing stick. I give that a quick whirl. It'll mix into a semi-transparent liquid. Basically, you just want to make sure it's evenly mixed and scrape the sides of the wall really good so you don't accidentally pour some unmixed resin in. Alright, so that's going to be good enough. So I'm going to pour into my antenna mold. You want to go slow so you don't trap air bubbles in. Like here, I went a little too quickly, so we're going to let that settle. Next mold for the PSI indicator. You want to try to pour into the low points as much as possible. Alright, radar eye. Now I'm probably going to have a little bit of spilling because my table's not 100% level. But as long as this is covered and I have a little bit of overflow, I'm going to be fine. Alright, so that one's good. You can see I have a little bit of overflow. I'm going to finish this off with the PSI. Or I'm sorry, the back panel for the PSI and the radar eye. So I'm going to top off the antenna there. Alright, so in this case, here. I'm going to just top this off a little bit because I can. Now in this case I actually hit it pretty dead on. If you have a couple molds that you use parts off of, it's good to just have them on hand so you can utilize the resin best you can. So now everything's poured, so we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes and come back and it'll all be white. 15 minutes is considered the minimum just to be safe, because sometimes if it's soft, particularly with like the antenna piece, it might bend. So I'm actually going to let it sit for about 30 minutes. So, but you don't have to sit there for 30 minutes because we'll be right back. Alright everyone, so about 30 minutes has passed. We're not going to take this one out of the mold because it was you can see it's a little bit thin, but the resin does bond to itself, so we'll just top that off with another pour. So let's go ahead and look at the antenna, because that was the main focus. So rubber bands come off, wood comes out. Yeah. And there you see we have a little bubble because we poured too far. We poured too fast, but this side is fine, so we'll pop that out. Okay. So there's our casting. Again, we had an air pocket in here because we poured too fast, but yeah, this antenna is still good. The resin eye, the hologram projector. There we go. And the PSI housing, so we'll take that out. And there we have our ring, so we'll pop that out. So this guy's good. And then the back panel, which we have a couple nubs here we'll just remove with an X-Acto knife later on. And that pops right into there. And that's that. So again, we have one little issue that's fixable, one we're not going to worry about. Next video we'll go over rotocasting, which will be how to cast something and make it hollow. So we'll be using a little bit different resin. See you next time.